the RDA for protein is incredibly low. And that's recommended daily allowance. And I think it's at something like 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if I'm 200 pounds, that's like 90 kilograms, and 0.8 of that would be about 70 grams of protein would be the RDA for someone like me, someone that's 200 pounds, as far as daily protein needs. And that's way too low. I think what they base that on is, instead of what you need to thrive, it's based on what stops you from really running into issues and being very protein deficient and body kind of eating itself away, eating away at muscle and not getting enough protein to give the body what it needs for normal daily function. But there's a big difference between minimally and avoiding wasting away and optimal amounts and making sure your body is really getting enough of what it needs and utilizing all that protein. So I think we've heard different things over time, and we're maybe afraid to eat protein because we've heard that a lot of meat's not good for you and this and that. But bottom line is, around a gram per pound of body weight is more of an optimal level of getting enough protein for almost everybody. And that's not even close to high enough levels to where it would be toxic or affect the kidney's ability to filter out the nitrogen. That's not even close if you're at 1 gram per pound of body weight. That would take 3 to 4 grams per pound of body weight before we ran into any type of problem there. But getting enough protein is important for a lot of different reasons. For one, it ensures that you're able to hang on to the muscle mass that you've built. And muscle mass is very important as opposed to fat mass, right? Your body's gonna hang on to mass at some level. So the more muscle that it can be, really the better, especially as we age, because we tend to decline in muscle, and especially if we're not resistance training enough. So if we're talking optimal levels, we're getting enough protein and we're also resistance training. We're challenging our muscles pretty regularly. But even if you're not, you can get away with a little less resistance training by getting enough protein. It's not to say that I encourage that. It's good to resistance train. It's good to eat enough protein. But what we often see, and what is probably the average person, fits right around that RDA of 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein and doesn't really resistance train. So there's no reason then for their body to hang on to muscle. And again, muscle is important for a lot of different reasons. A, it's metabolically active, so it helps burn calories. B, there's relationship between insulin resistance and having enough muscle, especially right after a workout. Your muscles are primed to reuptake glycogen, and take in carbohydrate and store it rather than spike our blood sugar levels too high or get stored, as fat. So we're in more of a fat burning state, and glycogen storage and eventual muscle repair and muscle building state after a solid resistance training exercise. And that's not to mention all the other benefits of having muscle mass when it comes to just functionality, and as we get older, and balance and stability, and being able to move well, and all that kind of stuff. So if we're at the RDA and not getting enough protein, we're going to be wasting muscle away. And that's the last thing that we want. So I tend to recommend to try to get up to that gram per pound of body weight. Have a hefty portion of protein with every meal that you eat. Try not to eat any meals where you don't get any protein. And that doesn't necessarily mean it always needs to be a complete protein, like an animal protein, like eggs, fish, meat, yogurt. Those are good. You do need complete protein eventually. And that's not to say it can't work if you're trying to be vegetarian. There's just barriers you're going to have to work around to make sure that you are getting enough amino acids. But for optimal function, you want to make sure you're getting enough complete protein. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean every meal, but it means that you're making a conscious effort to get protein with every meal. So even if it's like beans and nuts, at one meal, and the next meal, maybe you have some fish or whatever. But again, it's good to base that meal around a protein source and a plant source. So that's always what I recommend: a protein source, a plant source, and healthy fats with every meal. The carbs will come. Carbs are in veggies and fruit, which is a plant source, or whole grains if you have those now and then. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have those things, right? But don't base the meal around that. Try to base the meal around a protein source and a plant source to get the benefits of all the worlds, right? So you're getting the fiber from the plants, you're getting the nutrients from there, and then you're getting enough protein and all the nutrients that come along with protein itself, besides just the amino acids. So don't be afraid to get more protein. The RDA is way too low, and strive for around 1 gram per pound of body weight.